Guys, this is Mr. Surroca back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite composers of all time for me, from my end, and his name is Scott Joplin. He was the king of ragtime, and I love ragtime because ragtime is just cool. And I'm going to talk a little bit about ragtime and what really ragtime was when Scott Joplin was around. Now, during his time, Scott Joplin was born somewhere around Texarkana, Texas. That was around 1968. No one is really sure exactly what day he was born. It was around the summer in January of 1868, around that time in Texarkana, Texas. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what ragtime is, because a lot of people have a really hard time understanding what ragtime is. Now, for us musicians that know music, a lot of us know that most of the time when we play music, we have songs that are on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is on the beat. Whenever we play something that is not exactly on the beat, what I always say to most of my students, when I say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, everything that lands on the and, usually that's like the upbeat. The numbers are usually on the downbeat, but whenever I say the upbeat, that's basically the syncopation. I'm gonna give you guys a rhythm that is not where I'm gonna talk about a song that's not exactly syncopated. For example, there's a song that Bach wrote that's called Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. That song is exactly on the beat. There's like no syncopation in that song whatsoever. I don't think there is. But when you hear it, you hear you hear that? That has no syncopation whatsoever. It's just right on the beat. But some songs do. And I'm going to give you some examples. I want you guys to look at this rhythm down below. I'm going to put a rhythm here, and I want you guys to look at it. This is one rhythm that is syncopated. It goes like this. It goes ta, ti, ta, ti, ta, ta, ti, ta, ti, ta. That is syncopated. That's one example. I'm going to give you guys another example of another rhythm. You have this one. Ta, ta, ti, ta, ti. Do it one more time. Ta, ta, ti, ta, ti. That's another example of a syncopated rhythm, okay? So all those patterns have syncopation, but when Scott Joplin came around during his lifetime, when he started writing songs, when most of his time he lived in Missouri, it's called Sedalia, Missouri, that's where he lived most of his time writing his music, he became very known for having all the syncopations. One of the songs that became very famous, and they actually put one of his songs in a movie, it was called The Sting. A lot of you guys probably remember that movie. It's a very old movie, but The Entertainer became very famous during that time. And then during that time period, during his lifetime, after he started writing all this music, he started becoming really famous. And I'm going to start talking about a lot of his songs that he wrote and a lot of the influences that he actually created amongst other composers during his lifetime, okay? And a lot of times during the time period that he was living, the World War I was going on. So there is a lot of the African American heritage of his music that he was bringing. But then he also started listening to another style of music that was happening during his lifetime, which was the march. And the march also was very similar to his style, because whenever you heard the march, you would hear bum 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 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. It was usually on the beat, and it was very, very known during that time, and everybody was listening to it, because during that time, it was John Philip Sousa that was writing a lot of marches, and that's why they call him the king of the marches, because he just wrote a whole bunch of them. And I believe, and I could see that in his music, in Scott Joplin's music, he has a lot of influence with the march, because then he would keep the left hand the same, bum 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 bum. Very similar, but then on the right hand, he would start doing things that were against the beat, and that's when he started changing things. And I'm pretty sure during his lifetime, people were asking themselves questions like, what is that? That's so new, something we never heard. We've known about John Philip Sousa, but all this stuff that Scott Joplin was creating was brand new. And that was something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people during his lifetime weren't used to, and it was a new thing. And then during that time period, there's a lot of composers in Europe that were actually listening to his music, because there was a big exhibition in Paris. It was actually called the Paris Exposition in 1900. And during that time, there's a few composers that were influenced by Scott Joplin. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those, okay? You can see Eric Satie. There's a lot of songs that he wrote that were very famous. Their Cakewalk was another song that Debussy wrote that had a lot of influences from Scott Joplin because he used a lot of syncopation in his music. There's a lot of other composers, as well as another. Igor Stravinsky was another one that wrote a song called Piano Ragtime Music in 1919. That was around the time that Scott Joplin died. But do you see, a lot of people say that he didn't have a lot of influence on them, but he did. A lot of composers did hear his type of music, and they wanted to use his music and write ragtime. It was very different, but they were interested in it, and they used it in their music. That's why it's very important to me as well. When I write my songs and I'm not thinking of music, I always think of, especially for my culture, I know that when I'm thinking about salsa or merengue, there's a lot of lyrical lines, a lot of melodic lines and from the lyrics that are very syncopated. So we have a lot of African American heritage between that and Hispanic music from the Caribbean. Very, very similar to that. That's why I love his music as well. Now, before I go, that's just one thing. That's one thing why I wanted to talk about Scott Joplin, because he's so important to me. And I believe that when I went to college, they should have allowed me to play Scott Joplin, because I believe even his writer, his writer that wrote most of his songs for him and his books, I believe his name was John Stark. And John Stark said, you know what? His music is classical because it does carry a form. Even though it's written with music notes on paper, we could actually write it down. There's a way that Scott Joplin writes. There's a form to it. And he follows it and he performs it like that. And he also wrote many songs that had forms. There's Waltz, another waltz called Bethina. That had a form too. And it was a concert waltz. A waltz that you could actually perform at a concert. So I believe that Scott Joplin did have a form in his music. And I believe that a lot of music schools should allow his music to be played, because I believe it is considered part of the classical experience. And a lot of students still like performing ragtime, even though it might not be Scott Joplin. But I believe that most music schools should allow Scott Joplin to be performed. And that's one of the reasons why I love Scott Joplin. And I'm going to play a little bit now in a few minutes. And if you guys can see in the background, I played a little bit of the entertainer in the background, so you can see how his music sounded. And I'm also going to play, in a little bit, I'm going to play his Maple Leaf Rag, which became very famous because he was actually part of a club. His club was actually called the Maple Leaf Club, and that inspired him to write the Maple Leaf Rag, and that's why he wrote it. And I'm going to be performing it now for you guys in just a few minutes, and I hope you guys enjoy it, okay? I'll see you guys on the next note. guys, me again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to follow me on social media, you guys can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube at Music Kids Piano Studio. I have great news. My website is coming out very soon. I'll let everybody know when my website comes out so everybody can take a look at it. If you're ever interested in piano lessons, or if you're ever interested in a family member, or you are getting married, I can also play at your wedding. If you can reach me out on my website, you can call me at 786-306-4558. And I will see you guys in the next note.